Go. Gonna let people drop in. Welcome, everybody. Just give it about a whole minute here. We'll see when the meter of people download slows down. All right, I think we're no, still loading. All right, I think things are slowing down. We can kick off with a quick intro here. So, goal today, talk about wow, great start. Operationalizing Microsoft 365 security. It's a tough start in the new year, I guess, for the webinars. So we've brought someone with us to help with that. I'm certainly not the expert on that topic, but AJ is. AJ, I'll let him do an intro, works for Intech Hawaii, which is also one of our partners. Do you want to drop a quick intro about you?
Yeah, so I'm older than I like to admit. I'm an old military person, and after 20 years of sales and deciding I didn't want to do that anymore, I got into IT, where now I can speak like a salesperson about IT stuff.
Nice. So, goal today is we're gonna let AJ drop into his story about, how he got into M365 security, and we'll talk about operationalizing things, and uh, I'll let you drop right in. Do you want to start with how you got into things?
Yeah, I was working in the MSP space and started spending my wee hours digging through portals in Microsoft 365, reading documentation from Microsoft, which everyone knows how much fun that is, link after link, and started just trying to figure out how to make security better, how to do it. And where I was working, we didn't have any kind of a security offering at all. So we were, break fix and projects and all the things you expect. But eventually, I started getting a handle on how those things, how the pieces fit together, how things worked, how to, shore up some attack surface. And then I started just reaching out to clients individually, and that was the beginning.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people end up starting there where there's nothing yet. You know this is the thing to do, and you've got to build it out. So, what kind of kicked off how you built it out? How'd you do it? How'd you get the business to be on board with that?
Well, it started very rough. It started with me emailing little screen snips and trying to draw attention to things for the points of contact we had at our various clients. Um, Now, this was in early 2021, so there are a lot better uh, options out there for trying to capture images and relate a story than we had then. It was a lot of white space on Microsoft portals with very small print and little bitty lines. But it started there. I started getting a little bit of traction, and people started responding. Our clients, would respond and say, "Okay, well, go ahead and take care of that. How many hours do you need to fix that? Because I think that's something that we should work on." From that, once hours started becoming a little bit consistent, I started trying to figure out how I was going to package things together and how was I going to make this an actual offering that our solutions architects could present to people, and trying to figure out how I wanted to keep clients engaged and what the workflow was going to look like. And a lot of early morning and late night hours in front of some Excel spreadsheets and other IT thinking tools finally landed me on a platform that we could start offering and deliver on.
So do you want to elaborate on that? So how'd you do that? So initially what you're saying is you're poking around portals because you've read data here and there and there are things you're identifying that you want to double check if they're correct. You're finding some that aren't. You're getting customers engaged about it. How are you, what's special that made you able to engage in it?
So what we did was first we had to identify the work, and we put it into two different camps. So we identified that there was a lot of security hardening work and upkeep, because Microsoft's always changing things, and we were a Microsoft house. We used Microsoft unapologetically at the time. And so we built our two little camps, and we decided, okay, this type of work are implementing policies and working on secure score and things related to that, and user problems and device trust, things like that. We're all going to be handled by the security team. But if we had something come up, which is going to happen if you're deploying Microsoft security tools, something like a major MDM deployment where you had iOS and Android and BYOD and company devices and preset applications that they could use, that was going to go into the other camp. This was going to be the projects side of the house where you needed a dedicated resource, and there was going to be a 10 to 20 hour sustained effort to get everything set up, get people onboarded into Intune on a large scale. So that was the first step, was figuring out what work was going to be where. After that, once we knew where the work was going to go, we had to figure out how we were going to manage the maintenance side of it, where the security analysts were going to be going in every single month and trying to shore up secure score, keep up with the Microsoft changes, solve problems, find out why devices were having a fit with compliance, these things that roll your way. And what we landed on was either a monthly or a quarterly meeting with our clients. We invited them to it as part of the security offering, and we would present the security in a way that kept them engaged. So we had some strategies there about trying to keep them engaged, because as anybody on this call probably knows, you can PowerPoint people to death. You can show them screens and slides and graphs, and they're going to get tired of that after a couple of times and stop showing up to the meeting.
Okay. So what kept them engaged?
Um, Honestly, it was making sure our whole philosophy was to be a partner, not just to be a vendor or not just another vendor, right? So our attitude was, we have to, first of all, take into account the audience. We sometimes were in environments where we were the sole IT provider and knowledge resource. There was no on-site IT. So we had to use language and techniques in explaining things that didn't require someone to have to go do homework to understand what we were saying. In other cases, we had co-managed environments where they have on-site IT that are in there doing IT support every day. And what we were brought in to do was strictly security, to help with the security side of it. So we had to figure out, first of all, how we were going to present these things. And I found out early on that going into those meetings with 25 tabs open on my browser, one for everything that I wanted to show them in Microsoft 365, could work. It can. Uh, if you're really good at making something that boring sound interesting, it could work. But we decided that we needed to employ some MSP tools and things that would help us get better reporting, um, and just an overall better presentation for our clients. Because and let's face it, even if your target audience or target point of contact is IT savvy or IT knowledgeable, people like to see red, green, and yellow. They like to see, this much of my environment is secure. I have that many problems. So my green is at 90%, my red is at 8%, and my yellow is at 2%. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. And Microsoft was not then, and to my knowledge, still is not now, very good at doing the whole red, green, yellow, very simple. this is where you are.
And they probably want a project plan at the same time, a recommendation, not just 25 tabs.
Right. Yeah. And so, but hey, I spent a year doing 25 tabs. Every time I opened a meeting, I had an hour and a half of prep in front of it to get everything open and make sure the screen's loaded and make sure everything was right where I wanted it so I could just flip through and tell a little story. And I think that was a key point. I found a lot of success in telling a security story. So I would walk through, I would always start with access. I always started with Azure, the Azure portal where I can talk about access and users and PIM.
Yep.
And then I walked through the other portals and I just made my own story. So I made my little order of things and I would walk through all the portals with endpoint management and cloud apps and Defender and compliance, purview, and I would end and I just kind of walked it through and I got good at telling that story. And that's something that will help if you're starting to or already having these meetings with people. Practice, tell a story to your peers, tell the story to your boss, find a way that you're going to present the security facts and figures in a normal conversation rather than just a bullet point review of where things are.
And without throwing maybe wrenches, because I don't know if you were prepared for this, but like, do you know examples of ways where maybe the story wasn't working and so you refined it in a way that it was working better?
Well, getting into the weeds and the portals was a quick mistake that I learned not to do. I mean, if you're familiar with like the Cloud Apps portal, Cloud Apps portal will give you a massive amount of information rapidly. And I used to try to tell them, well, look at all these cloud apps that weren't, authorized or sanctioned. And let's look at all this. And look, you've got all these categories. Generative AI is a category, and we can be blocking that for you. And, just getting into the weeds. And what I had to do was just kind of back that up and just give an overall like you have X number of apps that are not sanctioned that are in use in your environment. And then the story part comes in. What does that mean to you? And that was my key thing that I brought from a sales background was giving them the benefit. Like, what does this mean to you? Well, having unsanctioned apps means this can happen. And I give them an example, or that can happen. Give them an example. And now they're starting to go, okay, now I see how this impacts me. Now I see
Yeah.
why I might need to want to control this or have someone control this for me.
Bring it back to the threats before they can make decisions on which ones they need to keep or not keep.
Right.
Awesome. Anything else important to call out as part of the workflow of how you built that out?
Well, one thing that we also did was we decided to use a block of hours for proactive work. So MSPs have different types of, you know, models or for hours, how they handle things. It might be an all-you-can-eat buffet kind of an agreement where we do everything for X number of dollars a month. Some MSPs have a hybrid version of that where they have a block of hours. Yes, we'll use this block of hours for this work, but if you have a project or if you get ransomware, that's separate. Uh, and then other MSPs have it's all just pay as you go. So we decided on the model of a block of hours for the proactive security work that we knew had to be done and looked at and monitored and maintained every single month. And Secure Score is a big part of that. I'm sure a lot of people on this call are familiar with that portal. But there's changes in there all the time. Things regress, Microsoft changes the wording on one or what qualifies for one, and there's always work to be done. There's always work to be done with device compliance or devices checking in. So there's a lot of things that we knew we were going to have to do that we didn't want to have to ask for permission every month. And so we wound all those things up into the block of hours. And then outside of that, we would be very clear and very upfront. But if you have a user who clicks on a link and it's bad, yes, that could have been blocked by some of the tools if they're licensed up to the point where we can, use safe links. But remediation is separate. Is how we did it. I'm not saying that's the right way or the wrong way, but that's
Yep.
how we did it was block of hours for proactive remediations and upkeep and maintaining and implementing new changes. And then pay as you go if there was some kind of a kerfuffle.
How would you say that that benefited your customers, or do we believe it did, and did they appreciate that approach for some specific reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say like 95, 96% of them really liked that model. Now there's another 3 or 4% that would rather just pay one fee and everything's handled, even if it's 3 weeks straight of ransomware remediation for the same fee, which we just couldn't, we couldn't get behind that.
Yeah.
But the majority of them liked having that budget. They knew they were paying that. They were going to the meetings either monthly or quarterly, and they were seeing what that money did and what changes we made, what policies we implemented. And in those meetings is where we discussed the latest and greatest from Microsoft. So, hey, this new feature has come out, or they've made changes, and now we can do more things with iOS devices that we couldn't do before, in Intune. They constantly make changes there. And so we would be bringing up topics like MAM or device trust, things like that in those calls. And then that just progressed the more work. But the clients were feeling and seeing that they were involved in decision making and they were being kept up to date, which made them more knowledgeable when they needed to talk to their board or president or whomever. They knew some of the terminology and they knew the concepts of what was going on.
So internally, from an operations perspective, what are you guys doing to be efficient at this and actually being able to find out when Microsoft is releasing new stuff? Like, is it this specific person's job? Obviously, this requires just general investment on the MSP side of thing, just to be aware
Yeah.
of changes that need to be implemented, new features coming out, and so on.
So it's more than a full-time job for anyone to try to keep up with Microsoft changes. Just speaking strictly from Microsoft, let alone any other platforms that you might be using that are changing the way they're doing things. So I would say right off the bat, don't try to cowboy that. Or don't try to be solo. Don't try to be the one person who's doing that thing. Get help with it. Don't be bashful about that. I used to and still do watch content creator videos from Microsoft 365. I watch webinars. There's this guy named Robbie who puts on webinars now and then, and I'll watch those and actually pick up some things because he's changing his platform. So I had to do it, Robbie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was really
Uh,
nice. Slick.
but yeah, it's challenging. There's a lot of Microsoft does put out a ton of information, and you can find what's new in Office, what's new in Intune. Google those and get on those feeds and have people read it yourself. But the content creators that are out there making a lot of content about this stuff are a real resource because many of them know a lot and they know what they're talking about and they break it down and summarize it for you, and then whether you need to spend more time digging into that or not.
Interesting. Is there maybe an example of before you had figured this all out, maybe things that some MSPs or techs themselves could be doing that's wasteful or not helpful and maybe not realize it?
uh well, I found personally wasteful and not helpful was trying to do it alone. But you know, the link spaghetti I used to call it from Microsoft, where you find an article and you start to read, and then there's 4 links at the bottom that say check out A, B, C, and D, and you start opening those, and eventually you've got 40 tabs open, and you don't even know where you started.
Like you can try
Or
that
what?
I'm going to read the change log approach, but the chances are that that's just going to waste some time.
Yeah, yeah. And so what I considered at the time and still do to be wasteful was trying to do it myself and just trying to read it. Um, there's a lot of videos, and again, there's a lot of people talking about the changes and showing you the changes. And in today's world, which is different from the one 5 years ago, quite a bit, there's so many more resources out there to help you understand it and keep up. So use the tools. Um, there's more resources available now than we had to try to maintain the knowledge level. So That would be my bottom line there was just, rely on other people to help you keep up because they will.
So I think we want to talk about two main things now moving forward, like prevention and response. Maybe touching on prevention. So what's the team composition? If you're not a one-man band and you've got a mature MSP, how did you transform the team to be as effective as possible? And then what did that do and how did you focus on prevention?
So what we had created our own list of standards, policy deployments, and things that we wanted to make sure that we had done in all the various portals within Microsoft. And what we did was we developed an audit process whereby we audited the tenants. This was in the beginning. We audited the tenants manually every month, looked at things, and then from that audit, um, the person doing the audit would then create a work ticket with all of the priority items from that audit. So we had a list of criteria. These are the higher priority, these are medium, these are low. Check all of them and make the list. And then we had the security analyst's job was to get those tickets and go do the work and find out what they could do to shore up the defenses. Um, but that worked until we ended up with more clients than it was feasible for us to try to keep up with manually. We needed like single pane of glass, right?
Yeah, so like when you
To
say
try
you
to
were
see
auditing,
stuff.
you were
Yeah.
using the portals, you were
Yeah,
clicking
we were
through.
logging into each environment
Yeah.
and getting, PIMing in and getting in and checking all the stuff and going one portal at a time. And I was the one who made the audit with what I wanted my some staff on my team to go check.
Yep.
They would then go check all that stuff, and then the priority list would come out, and then the analyst would go work it, and then talk to me about the results. So that worked for a while. And we came to augment more than a couple years ago, I think now,
It's been a while.
because we needed to be able to see things quicker, more efficiently. We needed to be at like, we went from if you go from 20 tenants to 80 tenants that you're managing security for, you don't have that kind of time to just go into every single tenant every single time looking at things. So we began utilizing MSP tools to try to make our process more efficient for coming up with the priorities. But this also gave us another leg up in our client engagement meetings because I would talk to them and say, hey, initially we had looked at these things as priorities for your tenant. And I would show them and I would tell the story. And I'd say, but based on what we saw 2 days ago, we changed that priority that we talked about. And we changed it because of this. So we saw an incident or we saw an alert or we saw that, you had a breach. And so we changed our priorities to meet what is happening in your environment right now, which is where these MSP tools come in really handy because you can see things in real time.
Yeah, so
Um,
you changed the service. The service was, let's call it rudimentary initially because that's what was available and possible.
yeah,
And you weren't able to sit and watch the audit logs all day for 80 customers. And now some tools can do that and flag for you what's important.
right. And by doing that, we again demonstrated value for the client. So we showed them that hey, we're trying to stay up on this. We're changing what we do. It's not the same old thing every month that you just pay it, set it, and forget it. That's again going back to not just being another vendor, but being a partner. We kept them in the loop. We talked to them about things, and in one example that I can think of, we had a client who I was going to the meeting the day before. They had a user click on a known adversary in the middle link. They got breached. Their session was stolen in an AITM attack.
Yep.
We remediated. But I looked back at the notes from the meetings, and 2 months before that, we had discussed device trust and setting up policies for device trust, which would have helped in this attack. But
Right.
it was decided that they didn't want to do it yet. And so it was just a revisit and it helped me bring back around that, hey, we changed what we did or what we were going to do because of things that happened to you. But let's revisit, because we've talked about this, and that device trust from 2 months ago, that could have helped us yesterday. And so it's just kind of keeping that conversation in front of them, and making sure that they understand what you're trying to gain as far as security goes, and how you're trying to help them, and what they can do on their side to help themselves with
This
decisions like that.
this might bring back the point of them having to pay separately for the remediation. Now they're kind of feeling the effects, and you're going, we're not trying to say to be the I told you so, but I told you so, and now it costs you money and downtime.
Yes, and I made it a point, if anybody's taken notes, to never say "I told you so."
Yeah.
But there are ways to say that without saying it, and so, but for me, it was a, hey, I'm thinking back to 2 months ago when we talked about device trust. Here's how device trust would have helped in this attack yesterday. Here's what it would have done differently than the outcome that you had. And so that's a very polite "I told you so," without saying it, but it gets the point across. So yeah, that's
So
um,
do you have any key prevention recommendations, generic or specific, that you want to give to the audience?
well, one of the big prevention things that we started doing, and there are so many different ransomware names out there that I could probably talk for an hour and just say names of ransomware. But like Black Basta, when they brought down Ascension Healthcare. So one of the prevention, and we had healthcare clients. So one of the prevention methods that we developed was getting on security feeds from cyber defense agencies internationally, not just in the U.S. And let me talk about that for a second. So
Yep.
there are, in the US, you've got the NSA, the FBI, CISA, just to name them, the top three probably, that are involved in cyber defense and ransomware prevention. Stomp ransomware now from CISA. But around the world, there are agencies that are contributing to these documents. You've got the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. You've got the National Cybersecurity Center in the UK. It's named the same thing, I think, in New Zealand. Australia's Cybersecurity Center, Israel's Cyber Defense Directorate. Like there's agencies around the world, and they are reverse engineering these ransomware attacks when they happen. So they're walking it backwards all the way to the point of getting these URLs, email addresses, file hashes, your SHA-256, MD1, MD5, all of that, and they're giving it to you. They're handing out that information. And we started creating custom block indicators in Microsoft Defender for our clients. And so what that did was create a trap. So we've blocked Black Basta's tools, the known tools that they use, that I just got off of an NSA document that was handed out, right? If a Black Basta actor gets into my client's environment, they can get in if the client users fall for it. But they try to use their normal tool stack and nothing is happening, and they're making a lot of digital noise, and we can go evict them and make sure that nothing, they weren't able to get anything done. And so from a prevention standpoint, utilizing those indicators of compromise, those bulletins with all that information, really stepped up our game and helped us block not necessarily the breach that got in, but block the damage that would follow. And that's kind of an important point. It's violating your client's expectations a little bit, but I'm gonna suggest this and figure out if you want to do it or how. I would tell clients, my job is not to block every attack against you, because I can't. I
Yep.
cannot block
You'll
every
try, but
single
you
attack.
won't.
Right. I cannot block every single one, because I can't stand behind your users with a little ruler to slap somebody's knuckles if they try to click on a link that I know is bad. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And most places would frown on that anyway. Uh, but what I can do is make sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to prevent the attacks and to help people in spite of themselves, the users, right? But we have to have everything set up on the inside in case they get in, or for when they get in. And so that was another conversation that was a little delicate, but I found it very successful. and realistic. Clients know deep down that you cannot block everything.
Yep. And we know
And
this.
we,
We
yeah.
see breaches all the time. I mean, just from alerts and augment, someone signed in, so on and so forth. So we know what happens. And then you're either kicking them back out and then chasing down what they've done, or and a big reason why we were putting this call together is because we knew that you guys are doing something, I think, pretty special and different, as a differentiation, that I think others can benefit from. So the more you want to dive into maybe how they understanding the type of data they should be looking for from a prevention perspective, and then that kind of internal response that's built in. I'm definitely curious if we can convey enough value here so that they can take the next steps to go and research how to implement that.
Yeah, well, I mean, step one is get the information. So if if I had to give anybody a starting point, I would say get on CISA's website. That's CISA. It's a U.S. government site,
Yep.
and they have a stop ransomware campaign. It's easily found on their site, and they have bulletins and PDFs full of these indicators of compromise, these IOCs, dating back to 2022, 2021, and these are, I mean, this is where I would start. They give you a lot of information about the attack, about the attack vector, what the group is doing to get in. They give you a ton of information, but then they'll also give you these IOCs. So they will recommend network security measures and remote access. You guys need to check this or make sure this is updated. But they're going to describe exactly what happens. They're giving you the answers to the test. Now, it was a test that somebody else failed because that's how they got onto this attack. Somebody got breached, somebody
Yep.
got hit. But we're trying to learn collectively from that and make sure that nobody, as few other people get hit from it. And then we all learn how to boost our security and increase our posture overall to prevent that. So my
Yeah.
starting point would be CISA and learning about these IOCs and how you can use them.
And then maybe expand on that internal lockdown because I don't think it's quite like a honeypot where you're not trying to attract them into there and get them stuck, but
Oh no.
they get in and they get stuck.
Right. And if that, so there's a lot of alerts that are going to be happening. If you did the method that we used, which was custom block indicators, then you're getting these high severity alerts about um, an attempted access to a blocked indicator. It's basically what it says. Uh, and then, we always named them. So by the ransomware campaign that we got them from, so we would see a blocked indicator for, Ghost or Medusa or Black Basta or whoever, right?
Hmm.
And now we know that that's priority one. That's we got to drop everything because there's an actual global ransomware group trying to get headway in there. And so now you're going in and you're locking down all kinds of stuff. And I'm not going to, get into because every MSP is going to have a different idea or a different process of how they lock down an environment in a case of in a a situation where you've got a severe attack. But whatever your process is, that gets implemented where you're blocking off access or you're putting devices and users in containment and defender or whatever it is that you're doing. But the block indicators was an awesome heads up that they're trying to use their normal tool stack already. So now we know, okay, they're trying to move laterally, they're trying to gain ground and spread out. They might be trying to encrypt. And once and point here is you got to act fast when you see those because once they figure out that their tools aren't working, they up their game. Their strategy may have been establish persistence and then work here and then collect this and then exfiltrate. But
Yep.
once their tools stop working, they're just going to go for the gold because they know that something's up
Yep.
and they might start trying to
They'll
encrypt
go
at
for
that
the
point.
quick win rather than
Yeah,
the long
yeah.
term.
Any ransom is better than no ransom at that
Yep.
point. So if they can lock down a certain amount of data, they'll take it.
For those who may not know, because even recently I wasn't super familiar with this, do you want to explain quickly what part of feature set custom block indicators are part of, what licensing it might take, and generally
Yeah.
how you set these things up and what they do?
Yeah. So an indicator. Um, First of all, we used a license set at the time, which was Business Premium and then Security E5 add-on. Now, the Security E5 add-on gave us access to the custom indicators. They're in the what I call the Mothership Defender portal, the one that was Defender before all the other Defenders got moved into Defender.
Yeah.
Go back 4 years and have fun with that whole parade. Um, but and so they're in there. Under there's a custom indicator. If you dig into the settings and endpoints, and you can find custom indicators. And now those indicators are also you can create them manually, or they are also being automatically updated with your settings from Cloud Apps in Defender. So
Okay.
if you unsection an app, there is a custom indicator being created by that action that disallows the URLs and things associated with that app when you click sanction and unsanction, right? So we went in and started making, and we figured out some ways to try to be more effective with it, because we may have been looking at 150 to 200 indicators at a time that we needed to mess with. So we did some scripting work and some customized Excel sheets to import this and that and do things. But bottom line is, we were entering them manually and naming them and setting them to block and setting them not to expire, and that's how that was our approach.
Okay. No, that sounds good. Anything else generally, if we go back to general prevention and response that you want to touch on? Um, Anything you've seen maybe from some MSPs that aren't uh, ways of doing things that have not been they're typical, but they're not successful or as successful as they could be?
I know that there are a lot of opinions on this next bit, and I have my opinion. um, fish tests are awesome. We use phishing tests and campaigns all the time for clients. Now, I'm a big proponent of proactive cybersecurity awareness training,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of there's some pushback on that. I mean, and you're going to get this from clients, and you probably have already. I'm not telling you anything you don't know here, but the user has to do a 3-minute video once a month, and then they have to get a test of a phishing campaign, and if they fail it, then they have to do a 10-minute training. And you're gonna get people that are saying, I can't have my people tied up that long. That's making them too ineffective. I'm not paying them for those 10, like I'm not getting my productivity out of them for those 10 minutes and everything else. And um, this is one of those points where you get to have the fun conversations, I call it, with the clients, and kind of the matter of fact, hey, look, I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, I'm trying to help you here, but let's look at this. And this tough conversation is what I found that some MSPs maybe struggle to do, is sitting down with Mr. CEO and going, look, the bottom line is, you can stomach the fact that these people had 10 minutes of training this month, or you can stomach the fact that they didn't and they clicked on something that they might have avoided and you were down for a week.
All these settings that you want me to do over here,
Like,
they're about 10% of the problem, and
yes, yeah.
90% is your people.
Humans are the final firewall,
Yeah.
right? The user is whether or not you are going to get compromised. Now, yes, there is something to be said for doing updates, right? That's a big piece, and locking down your remote access and making all those configurations and security hardening tasks and everything that you need to do. But the humans are the door, and they're the ones who get attacked more often than anything else, because you can always count on a human to be human, and humans make mistakes. So educating them is something that may be frowned on from a budget perspective with the nearsighted glasses, I'll say, by the client sometimes. But I mean, you have to have the hard conversation and sit down and go, look, I get it. We have to do it at my company too, and I don't like it that I don't get productivity out of my tier two and tier three technicians who are billing at whatever dollars an hour, and they have to take 30 minutes out of their day, and I still pay them and they do training. But if they don't, what's the downside? What's the other side of the coin? Is, oh, well, they didn't get that training. They didn't know about that new method and they fell for it. And we were out 3 days of like company productivity because we had to recover, or whatever that looks like, or there was a 5 hour ticket to fix a mess that somebody clicked into, right? So from the standpoint of what do people do right and wrong, I'm not really in a position to say who does what right and who does what wrong, but I can tell you that
You've got
we
examples.
learned to have those conversations, and even though they weren't always comfortable, and there were some salespeople in the background going, "Don't make them mad, don't make them mad," but it was a reality check. We had to just say, "Look, this is the real world. We have to budget for this training. You guys have to do multiple types of training to keep your people informed."
Okay, so we've touched on, what do we need to do to keep the portal safe and how you learn about the new ways that it can be exploited or new settings and configurations that need to be done. General exploitations. I think it did that touch mainly on software? Is it just general ways things are being hacked and then you're able to set up indicators to try and stop those or block them? Um,
Well,
I
yeah,
know,
the indicators were mostly based on either URLs, email addresses, domains from attack groups that were known, server IPs, or the one that I think has the biggest impact are the file hashes for the tools that they use.
yeah,
Um, so those were that was the biggest point there, was making sure that we get those in, because I mean they have to develop new tools to get around that.
yep. And then while we were prepping, you were telling me an example that I'll let you jump into about user onboarding, and I guess I'll let you jump into the example. And the question would be, you know, generally, how do people learn about the different areas that are sensitive for phishing and attacks, et cetera, beyond the configuration of the portal and then those other attack vectors we talked about.
Right. So here we're dumping back into the whole humans are the first and last defense,
Yeah,
right? So here, well, let me tell you a story. So a new employee is getting ready to start a new job, and they just got the offer letter and they signed it, and they went straight to social media and went, "Woohoo! I am starting a new job week from Monday at ABC company.
yeah,
It's going to be great." And right there, they painted a big target on themselves and they don't even know it, because new hires are a very targeted group of people, and especially when they haven't even started yet. So, social engineering attacks is what I'm talking about. Um, you post something like that, and an attacker who's watching for that is then going to social engineer everything they can about the company and everything they can about you. And they will use the dark web, um, to do this stuff and to find information. And what their goal is to trick you into either doing something. So they might be trying to get you with a gift card scam. And they're going to tell you, they're going to send you a text message from your new CEO, and they've got his name and they've got the hiring manager's name because they social engineered that stuff. And they're going to try to get you to go pick up some gift cards, or they're going to get you to try to do something, or try to establish contact, or recognize that that's your CEO's phone number for later use, right?
yep,
Um, and these people who are really excited about their new job have no idea that somebody is rapidly running them down because they posted about it. And I'm not trying to say that people shouldn't be excited about their new job, but we developed a handout, um, that we asked our clients to give to new hires. And it was hey, welcome to the company. We're excited to see you. And guess what? Cyber attacks are real. Here are some here is some information that you should know right now about the company and about company communications that will help you not to fall for a scam. These are our domains. If you get a message from a domain that's not on this list, it's not us. These are the domains. Here's where, and then, I mean, I'm a believer in pictures, right? I was talking earlier about the red, green, and yellow graphs. Screenshot, big red arrow. This is where you see the domain, because you don't
yep,
know if, this employee may not be in the IT field. They may not know anything about IT.
yep,
But listing, this is how we will contact you. Will we ever contact you on your cell phone? Yes or no? If we did, what context would it be in, and what would that message look like, and where would it come from? Letting them know that these are the standards. This is how we talk to you. This is how you talk to us. this is who you report to, and until you are, onboarded fully into the company, this is the only person that you report to. Like, don't start trying to be helpful and answer a bunch of questions for somebody else, not until we get you in here and get you secured, right?
Yep.
And so, like the top in the top five types of attacks, and I pulled a bunch of information from like well, CISA and FBI sites and all that kind of stuff. In the top five is phishing and social engineering. So the attackers are out there, and they're not just attacking existing employees. They're looking at your people that just posted that they're going to start a job, or that, hey, I just started my job, or they're brand new. These people are under fire, and they haven't been in the company long enough to know what looks normal yet. So
Yep.
my advice is to rapidly show them what normal looks like, and to give them the confidence to stand up and say, I think I see something that's abnormal. I want to ask a question.
Yep. That's I look at this essentially all day long, and I still don't know all the ways that things are getting social engineered. And I should have thought of this one. I certainly hadn't, right? Until we discussed it. What have you done in the way you operationalize things? I really have a hard time with that word. Um, so that you're finding out about the new ways that these things are being socially engineered. Like whose job is it? At, what do they follow?
Well, I found out about. I'm trying to remember how I found out about that, or how that occurred to me. But honestly, part of my job was to always be trying to keep up with these things and to figure out these new attacks. And I read that uh, example, and I keep mentioning this site, but I believe I read that on either the FBI or CISA website, on their cyber defense, where they talk about new attacks and new attack vectors and new methods. It was on one of those sites, and if I'm quoting it wrong, I'm sorry, but I believe it was on one of those two sites. And so again, I spent a lot of time looking at those sites and those reports, and information from around the world, because the attacks don't happen just in the U.S. They often start elsewhere and gain traction. So what would I tell somebody to try to keep up with everything? I would say good luck, because I struggle. Uh,
It's
I
that,
will
yeah,
be honest.
there's
I
no
struggle with
stray
it.
bullet on
It's
it.
a
Yeah.
challenge, and there's always that thought in the back of the head. If you're the person who's supposed to be keeping up, you go to bed at night wondering, what did I miss? Was there, like, which one did I not read? Um, but you can only do what you can do. So rely on other sources, credible sources, to help you find information, and then do your own homework and find sites that work for you.
Awesome. I think this is a perfect place to close it. Do you want me to put your Reddit handle up or
If I had one.
if I had one, I should have known better.
I'm
Yeah.
not big on social media for obvious reasons.
Great, everyone. Thank you so much for the time. I mean, I know even I was actually telling AJ when we set this up, like, I'm looking forward to this. I think I'll learn some stuff. Sure hope everyone else here did. I thought this was super insightful. I'm probably lucky enough that I might get to keep some parts of the conversation going later, but thank you for the
That'll
time. I
cost
really
you.
appreciate it today. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Thanks
All
everyone
right.
for
Thanks a
joining.
lot, you guys. Thanks for having me.